Welcome to Hennett Minutes. I'm Greg Hennett, and today's message is, are you lovable or loathable? That may seem a little odd to you because you may think, well, how can a Christian be loathable? Well, that means a Christian is hard to handle, hard to get along with, contentious, proud and touchy, jealous and envious over everything, full of complaints, full of unbelief, doesn't want to seek God. Not a good description of a Christian, is it? You know, some Christians think, and some schools of thought think, that because we receive Christ's righteousness and the new birth experience, it basically doesn't matter how we live. Friend, let me tell you, it matters greatly how we live because it affects our fellowship with Christ and it affects our eternity because we will stand before Christ and be judged for our works, not His grace. So, I want to point out to you some text in the Old and the New Testament to show you that the Lord pays attention to this. He sometimes loves His people and He sometimes loathes them. You may not have ever realized that. Now, our first text is in Psalm 95, verse 10. Here the Lord is speaking of the Israelites during their wilderness wandering period. And He says this in verse 9 and 10, when your fathers tried me and tested me and saw my work, that is, they saw my miraculous aid, 40 years long was I grieved with this generation, and I said, it is a people that do err in their heart, and they have not known my ways, unto whom I swore in my wrath. Now, please pay attention. This is a powerful expression of divine wrath. I swore in my wrath that they should not enter into my rest. That generation never received the blessing of God. They wandered in the wilderness and died there, and their children went into the promised land. Why? Because they were loathable and their children were lovable. In Psalm 78, which tells the long, sad saga of God and His people, Israel, over the years, how they would believe and obey, and then they would disobey and rebel and disbelieve Him. And this went on in cycles until it reached a climax. And in Psalm 78, verses 57 through 59, God said this, but they turned back and dealt unfaithfully like their fathers. They were turned aside like a deceitful bow, for they provoked Him to anger with their high places and moved Him to jealousy with their carved images. When God heard this, that is, that His people were just consumed with idolatry, that they just loved other things more than Him, He was angry, and He greatly abhorred Israel, so that He forsook the tabernacle of Shiloh. This was the period where Israel went through 20 years of being without the ark of God, and that represented being without God among them. Why? Because of persisting, stubborn sin. Now listen to that phrase, God greatly abhorred Israel. So clearly, these two Old Testament references show us that God loathed the condition of His people, their behavior, their disposition, and their interaction with Him. He could not love them because they were not lovable. And you know, what are the lovable qualities of God? I'm just going to tell you what they are right now. Obedience, humility, meekness, being pliable in His hand, easily turned and led. These are qualities of heart and of character that make us lovable to God. He delights in this. Well, in Revelation, in the New Testament, chapter 3, listen to what Jesus said to the Laodiceans. So then, because you are lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. And the word spew in the Greek means vomit. And when, I hate to be so graphic, but when we vomit, our body is violently ejecting something. There's something in our GI system which our body is rejecting. And so it vomits it, just spews it out with sudden violence. Well, what Jesus was saying to the Laodiceans was very strong language. He's essentially saying, I loathe your condition. your mind, your pride, your materialistic idolatry. Where do we stand today? You examine your life and I'll examine mine honestly and truly, and let's see, are there unlovable things in us today, in our attitudes, our motives, our behavior, the way we go about our day, the way we interact with our family, with our neighbors, with our church members, and with others on a daily basis? Are we walking in truth and love, or are we walking in contentiousness and murmuring and disbelief in God and striving and fighting and demanding our way and walking in pride and arrogance? These are some thoughts on being lovable versus being loathable.